Something extraordinary is unfolding at Manchester United right now, and if you are not paying close attention, you will miss just how significant this moment actually is. We are not in pre-season. We are not in January. We are in the final days of a Premier League campaign, and yet the decisions being made this week will define this football club for the next 3 to 5 years. The managerial situation, the transfer shortlist, the midfield rebuild, the academy decisions, all of it is moving at the same time. And here is what makes this moment so important. Manchester United have already secured third place in the Premier League. That means Champions League football is confirmed for next season. That one achievement changes everything. It changes the type of players who will listen to a phone call from Old Trafford. It changes the financial power the club holds in negotiations. It changes the ambition level the new manager can promise to incoming signings. But third place alone does not guarantee success next season. The squad still needs major surgery. The midfield is being stripped and rebuilt almost entirely. Positions across the pitch need reinforcement, and the clock is ticking. So let us go through everything that is happening right now, piece by piece, starting with the story at the very center of it all. The managerial situation. Michael Carrick. Let us begin with the tweet from Fabrizio Romano, shared through the Manchester United Forever account. This is what Romano said. And these are his exact words. I think there will be plenty of movements at Manchester United. Champions League football will be attractive to players. Champions League money, really important to reinvest. Players leaving. I think it is going to be an important, exciting summer for Man United with Michael Carrick as future coach. Now let us pause on that for a moment. Fabrizio Romano does not casually drop a manager's name as future coach. When Romano speaks with that level of confidence, it is because the information has been verified at multiple levels. The situation is clear. Michael Carrick is the expected appointment as Manchester United head coach going into next season, and Romano is publicly framing the entire summer rebuild around that assumption. This is significant. Champions League football is described as both attractive to players and financially important. Those two things together give Manchester United real leverage in this transfer window, leverage they simply would not have had if they had finished fourth or lower. Now moving to the breaking news shared by the United exclusive account, quoting journalist Laurie Whitwell. This is what Whitwell said. My information is that an executives committee meeting was set for this week, and I believe it has happened. So the recommendation has been made by Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox. Now it is the question of if Sir Jim Ratcliffe agreed to that. I think that is the anticipation, and then you are into contract talks with Carrick. Let me break down exactly what this means. The Executives Committee at Manchester United, which includes Sporting Director Omar Barada and Technical Director Jason Wilcox, has already met and made a formal recommendation. The recommendation, based on everything pointing in one direction, is Michael Carrick. The next step is Sir Jim Ratcliffe signing off on that recommendation. And once he does, the club moves directly into contract negotiations with Carrick himself. My analysis, this is not a rumour, this is not a guess. An executive committee meeting has taken place. A formal recommendation has been submitted. This is a process that is moving forward with clear intent. The only remaining variable is Ratcliffe's final approval. And every piece of available information suggests that approval is expected. Now adding to this, journalist Ben Jacobs, quoted through the Simply United account, offered crucial context about how this appointment has been handled. These were his words. Manchester United will not want it painted as Carrick got Champions League football and then he just got the job. On day one, Carrick was not told definitively he was a candidate, but the interim title was removed from his job title to allow him to function as a Manchester United manager, including being part of recruitment meetings. The weight of support from Carrington and the dressing room has led Manchester United to feel this is the right fit, this is the best transition. This is a deeply important piece of context. From the very first day Carrick took temporary charge, the club made a deliberate decision. They removed the word interim from his title. That is not a cosmetic change. That means he was operating as a full manager from day one. He was in recruitment meetings. He was helping shape the squad that would inherit whoever became the permanent manager. The club essentially gave him the role in everything but official confirmation. And the phrase that stands out most is this: the weight of support from Carrington and the dressing room. That is not something manufactured. That is organic trust built by a man doing his job well every single day. When players and staff push for someone to get a job, that carries real weight in any organisation. The evidence suggests Manchester United are not giving Carrick this role out of convenience. They are giving it to him because every indicator inside the club points to him being the right choice. If you want this level of detailed breakdown on every major Manchester United story this summer, hit that subscribe button right now. Every transfer, every decision, every piece of context that the headlines miss. That is what Marcus United Analyst is here for. Now let us keep going. Here is what was at risk. Manchester United finishing this season without a clear managerial direction would have been catastrophic for the summer window. Players do not sign for a club when they do not know who will be coaching them. Agents do not enter serious negotiations without knowing the sporting project. Transfer targets look elsewhere. Champions League qualification and a clear managerial appointment happening at the same time gives Manchester United something they have not had in years. Clarity and attraction simultaneously. If this window had gone into chaos with no manager confirmed and only Europa League football to offer, the rebuild would have been delayed by another full year. The consequences of getting this right are enormous. The consequences of getting it wrong would have been equally enormous. This is the window that determines whether Manchester United are genuinely back as a competitive force or whether they remain a club caught somewhere between ambition and instability. The midfield rebuild. Deep dive. Now let us go through every midfield target in detail because this is where the majority of the summer business will happen. The tweet from the Simply United account, quoting Ben Jacobs on Elliot Anderson, stated the following. Man City and Man United are now in a position to go to Nottingham Forest. Keep an eye on potentially bids, but certainly club-to-club talks. This is something that can now happen and will now happen simply because if Evangelos Marinakis is open to a negotiation because Forest are safe and their European run is over. My analysis. Elliot Anderson has been on Manchester United's radar for some time. The reason formal moves could not happen earlier in the season was straightforward. Nottingham Forest were fighting for safety and competing in Europe. Their owner was not in a position to enter negotiations because losing a key player mid-campaign was not an option. That situation has now changed. Forest are safe. Their European campaign has ended. The owner is now open to business. And the timing here matters because Manchester City are also positioned to make a move. This is not a situation where Manchester United can wait. The window for club-to-club talks is open right now, and it is open for both clubs simultaneously. Moving now to the news surrounding Morten Hjulmand. The Centre Devils account posted this update, and Manchester United and Arsenal are leading the race for Morten Hjulmand, with both clubs pushing to sign him. He can leave Sporting for 40 million euros despite having an 80 million euro release clause. This is a genuinely striking piece of information. Hjulmand's official release clause stands at 80 million euros, yet the figure being discussed for an actual transfer is 40 million euros. That is half the release clause. The situation is that Sporting CP may be willing to negotiate significantly below the contractual exit price because the player himself wants to leave and the club would rather receive a guarantee fee through negotiation than risk a more complicated process. Manchester United and Arsenal being the two clubs leading the race makes this a direct battle between Premier League rivals. And at 40 million euros, this represents serious value for a midfielder of Hjulmand's quality and profile. Now to the Aurelien Tchouameni situation. The Simply United account carried this update. Manchester United may need to be very patient in their pursuit of Aurelien Tchouameni, with any potential move more likely to happen after the 2026 FIFA World Cup. United believe that if they can convince the midfielder to leave, Real Madrid could be open to selling him. My analysis, the situation here is complicated by timing. The World Cup takes place in the summer of 2026. Any move for Tchouameni is more realistically a post-tournament conversation. Real Madrid are not going to sell a key midfielder before a major international tournament. And the player himself is unlikely to want the distraction of a transfer during World Cup preparations. The key detail here is that Manchester United believe the pathway exists if they can convince the player directly. Real Madrid's openness to selling is conditional on Tchouameni wanting to leave. This means any serious pursuit is a longer-term project, rather than something likely to be completed this summer. Now to Ederson of Atalanta. This is one of the most concrete transfer stories in the current window. It is now clear that Manchester United are actively pursuing the Atalanta midfielder, and that a fee of around £43 million is considered the relevant figure to secure the deal. No formal bids have been submitted yet, but there is a genuine belief that the player would be open to a Premier League move. Atalanta's chief executive Luca Percassi publicly confirmed that no official offers have arrived. His exact words were, "We have no official offers, only interest from other teams. I think it is unlikely that teams will make a move before the end of the season. Interest in our players is normal, but we will evaluate them at the right time with great serenity and calm. The analysis here is straightforward. Percassi is managing the situation calmly and professionally. He is not closing the door, and he is not encouraging a bidding war. He is simply stating the current reality, which is that formal negotiations have not begun. The evidence suggests Manchester United are positioning to make an official approach once the season concludes. The departure of Casemiro at the end of the current season creates an obvious hole in the midfield. Manuel Ugarte's future also remains uncertain, with reports indicating he has been offered to both AC Milan and Juventus. If Ugarte departs, the need for Ederson becomes even more urgent. What makes this deal particularly interesting from a strategic angle is what it means for Atalanta. At 35 years old, Martin de Roon, and at 31 years old, Mario Pasalic are both on the wrong side of their peak years. Selling Ederson at £43 million would give Atalanta significant funds to reinvest in a younger midfield core. This is a deal that could work for both clubs simultaneously. Now to Jude Bellingham. The Transfer News Live account reported the following. Manchester United have reignited their interest in Jude Bellingham. United wanted the Borussia Dortmund midfielder last summer after Sunderland's promotion-winning season, but Solskjaer chose to follow Jude's path to Germany instead. After a difficult start, the 20-year-old has now exploded into life with 44 appearances this season and is back on United's midfield shortlist. My analysis, this is a rumour at this stage, and it is important to be clear about that. There is no confirmed bid, no confirmed approach, and no confirmed interest from the player's side. What is confirmed is that Manchester United have monitored Jude Bellingham previously and that his performances this season, 44 appearances for Borussia Dortmund at 20 years of age, have reignited that interest. At his age and with the trajectory he is showing, the profile makes sense for a club rebuilding with an eye on the next 5 years. But this remains firmly in the monitoring category rather than the active pursuit category. Moving to Alex Scott of Bournemouth, the Stretford End account reported the following. Manchester United have closely tracked Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott throughout 2026 as they prepare for a major midfield rebuild under Michael Carrick. Carrick is said to greatly admire Scott's energy, technical quality and versatility. Scott is reportedly among 13 midfield targets on United's shortlist, while Liverpool and Newcastle also continue to monitor the Bournemouth midfielder closely. The detail here that stands out is the personal element. Carrick specifically admires Scott's qualities. When a manager has a personal appreciation for a player's style, that tends to accelerate the decision-making process once negotiations become possible. However, the fact that Liverpool and Newcastle are also involved means Manchester United cannot afford to move slowly if Scott becomes a genuine priority. 13 names on a midfield shortlist is an extremely large number, which tells you that the club has not yet narrowed their decision to 2 or 3 firm targets. The summer will involve significant filtering of that list. Now to Ayoub Bouadi of Lille. The Stretford End account reported this. Manchester United are monitoring Lille midfielder Ayoub Bouadi ahead of the summer transfer window. United are keen on adding a young, high-potential midfielder to their squad, with Bouadi emerging as one of the options being considered for their Plan D shortlist. From the players' side, a departure from Lille at the end of the season is increasingly expected, with the feeling that an exit now appears inevitable as interest in the talented midfielder continues to grow. My analysis. The phrase Plan D shortlist is worth focusing on. This means Bouadi is not a primary target, he is a contingency option, a backup to the backups. That does not mean the signing would be a bad one if it happened, but it does give us important context about where he sits in the club's thinking. The fact that Lille are expected to lose him this summer regardless of Manchester United's interest means the situation is worth monitoring. If the priority targets do not materialise, Bouadi could become a more serious option very quickly. Now to Carlos Baleba of Brighton. The Simply United account reported this. Manchester United explored the possibility of signing Carlos Baleba last summer through third parties, but were put off by Brighton's £100 million valuation. It has been a challenging third season at Brighton, although injuries, the disruption caused by the Africa Cup of Nations, and, according to Cameroon coach David Pagu, family problems during the first half of the campaign are all factors in his drop-off in form. The evidence suggests this is a situation to watch, rather than one where a deal is imminent. Brighton's £100 million valuation was the barrier last summer. That valuation is unlikely to have increased given Baleba's difficult season. The key question is whether Brighton would now accept a lower figure. The disruptions he has faced, injuries, international commitments, personal circumstances provide important context for a drop in form that might otherwise be misread as a permanent decline. Manchester United monitoring this situation quietly makes sense to Rio Ferdinand's recommendation shared through the United Truthful account. Ferdinand was speaking on TalkSport Breakfast, and these were his words. There is a kid called Keys Smith, who I absolutely love. He is at Alkmaar. Not many people listening probably know him, but go and check this kid out. He is a Dutch kid, midfielder. He would not be one I would buy to go in and start immediately because he is too young and inexperienced. But definitely, I would not want to miss out on him because I think you need to get 2 or 3 in that area. My analysis. This is a pundit recommendation rather than a confirmed transfer target, and it is important to frame it that way. Ferdinand himself acknowledges Smith is too young and inexperienced to start immediately. What Ferdinand is arguing for is future planning. Signing players who will develop into starters rather than only signing players who are ready today. The logic is sound, and it reflects the kind of squad building that creates long-term stability. Whether Manchester United act on this specific suggestion is unknown, but Ferdinand's broader point about needing 2 or 3 midfielders this summer aligns with everything else being reported about the scale of the rebuild required. The left-wing solution, Noah Ajayi. This is a story that connects directly to the broader rebuild conversation and deserves serious attention. It is now clear that Manchester United coaches at Carrington are highly impressed by 17-year-old academy winger Noah Ajayi. The picture being painted from inside the training ground is of a player who is not just talented, but exceptionally professional for his age. Coaches describe him as easy to work with, eager to study his own performances on tape, and possessed of both the technical ability and the mental maturity to handle first-team football. Ajayi has had a significant season in the academy. He played a key role in the run to the FA Youth Cup final and scored in the Premier League Cup final against Crystal Palace. Those are not small achievements. Those are moments that test a young player under pressure, and he has performed in those moments. The left-wing situation at Manchester United heading into next season is one that requires depth. Matheus Cunha has made that position his own with an outstanding debut season, and Patrick Dorgan provides an additional option from that side. But with 4 competitions to prepare for in the upcoming campaign, Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup and League Cup, depth across all positions is essential. The evidence suggests Manchester United's coaching staff are seriously considering whether RJ can be integrated into first-team planning rather than spending money on an external signing for a backup left-wing role. The fact that coaches are openly described as highly impressed and that the 17-year-old has 3 footballing role models he actively studies to improve his game suggests this is a player with genuine seriousness of purpose. It is important to be clear, this is not a confirmed squad promotion. It is not a confirmed transfer decision. What is confirmed is that the internal appreciation for Ajayi is real, and that the club appears to be seriously weighing whether he provides a viable in-house solution to the depth problem on the left. That is a significantly different conversation from simply hoping an academy player develops eventually. The human side. Lisandro Martinez. Before closing out this analysis, there was one piece of content that was not about transfers or managers. It was something more personal, and it deserves acknowledgement. Lisandro Martinez spoke about how his relationship with his wife, Muriel, changed his perspective on life. These were his exact words. I think it is very important, but for me, the most important thing is having a good woman by my side. Because since I have been with Muriel, she has taught me a lot about being a man. I came from a very macho background, so to speak. I was raised more or less like that, and it is like I was never able to develop my feminine side. How to treat a woman well, how to express myself, how to give love. I always thought crying was a weakness. Then she taught me all those things that I truly love. I love to cry, I love to express myself, I love to give love, I love to hug, to say things to someone's face. I love you, I care about you, whatever it is. And I think those are my roots, right? Family and having a good woman by my side. My comment on this, in a world where football news is almost entirely about fees and contracts and tactics, there is something genuinely refreshing about a player speaking with this level of honesty. Martinez is not performing vulnerability. He is describing a real personal evolution. And for a player who has been through injury struggles and high-pressure moments at Manchester United, the clarity he shows about what grounds him tells you something about the character of the man. This is the kind of person who, when fit and firing, gives everything on that pitch, Because he knows what matters most in his life, and football is the expression of that drive. Let us pull everything together now. Manchester United are entering what could be the most important summer in over a decade. The managerial situation is moving toward confirmation, with the executive committee having made its recommendation and contract talks with Michael Carrick appearing imminent, pending Sir Jim Ratcliffe's approval. Champions League football provides the backdrop that makes this window genuinely exciting rather than merely necessary. The midfield rebuild is the central project. Casemiro is leaving. Manuel Ugarte's future is uncertain. The club is targeting multiple additions, with Edison of Atalanta at around £43 million appearing to be one of the most advanced situations. Elliot Anderson of Nottingham Forest is now in a position to be formally approached. Morten Hjulmand represents a potential €40 million deal despite having an €80 million release clause. Aurelien Tchouameni remains a longer-term project tied to the World Cup timeline. Additional names being monitored include Alex Scott of Bournemouth, Joe Bellingham of Borussia Dortmund, Ayoub Boadi of Lille, and Carlos Baleba of Brighton. These range from active interest to contingency planning, and it is important to understand where each sits on that spectrum. On the left wing, rather than spending heavily on an external option, the club appears to be seriously evaluating whether 17-year-old Noah Ajayi can step into a squad role based on the strength of his academy performances and the clear appreciation of the coaching staff. Everything is moving simultaneously: the manager, the transfers, the academy decisions. And for the first time in a long time, there is a structure and a direction behind that movement rather than just chaos. This is Manchester United building again, and this summer will tell us exactly how seriously they mean it.